Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy Swedlow, and this is Televisionation. I am really excited to meet a couple of young students who are at Chapman University, and they're doing something really interesting, and I took an interest. And I want to thank Frank Chindama, who's a professor down there, who alerted me to what's going on in his class. Of course, we've covered his work as well, trying to train all his students in the use of TikTok as filmmakers. So lots happening down there. And I want to welcome Jacob Vaus. Jacob?
Yes.
That's
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, great. And Eli Weiss, who's next to him.
Hello.
So welcome to the show, guys. I know you're happy to be in Frank's class. There's a lot of work going on down there. What's happening? I mean, I know the reason that that we know about you two is because you are filmmaking using AI. I mean, you are using, I should say, AI to either help write the film or edit the film. Let's discuss how you're doing this and the kind of work that that you've already just launched, even in the last day or two. So
Yes. So what we're doing essentially, or the program that we're using, it's called Shortly Read, and it's a program that's for writer's block. That's how they market it. And basically, you input however much text you want, and it will continue from there to develop and write however much you want. And so what we learned just playing with it is that, you could start either with like a short story type prose, or you could start with a script or song lyrics, and it will generate whatever form you put in.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is it's using OpenAI's newest available AI technology, which is called GPT-3, that has multiple use cases, but obviously the one we're using is all based on written word. And so it's able to be self-referential. So anything that you put into it, for example, if you write, little did John know he would soon fall into a deep depression. It will continue writing a story and make sure that those things that were predicted earlier in the story will come back as true. Or if you sort of set up characters to have a certain trait, it can follow along and understand that and make sure that those things stay true to the character. So it's a very advanced technology, and we've been using it to write short films, write songs, write recipes, and a few other sort of experiments, all with sort of the central theme around what happens when you combine the creativity of humans and our ability to execute on that creativity with the capabilities of artificial intelligence.
And so how much do you have to put into the engine? I played around with it a little bit. I'm not sure I got the same results as you did. So you must be tweaking it in different ways. We'll put the URL on here so people can take a look themselves. But how much text do you have to put in? A line? A paragraph? I mean,
so what you will get really varies depending on what you put in. So we found that with scripts, if we want to have a script that includes dialogue and a certain amount of characters, or like a change in location, you need to kind of introduce that to the AI. So if I'm writing a script and I introduce two characters and then I show that it changes from a house to like a hotel, then continuing forward, the AI will know, we can switch locations. And so you just kind of have to give it a good sense of what kind of stuff you want to see. So I typically do maybe like a paragraph or two paragraphs. And if the more you do, the more it will start to, with prose, be able to like mimic your style. And whether you're writing kind of like purple prose or really kind of simple and dumbed down like that, it will start to recognize that the more you give it.
and do you give it a limit? Like, I want 3 pages of this. I want, like, how do you set the limit? Or does it just write another 2 paragraphs if you give it a couple of paragraphs?
Yeah, so it depends. In the tool, there's a sort of slider on the side where you can ask it to write a little, a lot, or somewhere in between. But even if you have it all the way to a lot, it'll usually only write maybe a whole another 3 or 4 paragraphs. But you can just keep hitting the generate button. So if you type in half a page and then it'll generate half a page, you just ask it to generate another half page. So you're able to get page upon page that's all been generated by the AI just based on a short prompt that you gave it.
And I'm assuming,
And there's no limit to how long you can keep generating for.
And this is just text. It's not like you can add in images at this point, correct? Like
Well, so like one,
go ahead.
oh, sorry. The like something we were doing today is there was like the simple story of it is there was a presentation we were giving at like a tech conference, and so we wanted it to write our entire speech without them knowing, and then we would deliver it. And so what we did is because we wanted to do a PowerPoint along with it. So when I was writing out our what we would say at the beginning before we started generating the AI, I would write picture 1 : and then I would say like picture a brain. And then going forward, the AI through text will write like picture 2 and will choose, what the images will be.
Yeah, so
writing.
It's not able to generate images like that you can visually see, but if you describe images, like even when we've written scripts before, you can put like close up on his boot, and then it recognizes that, oh, every so often this writer is describing a specific shot, so it will start to do that later on, and it'll give you specific shots that are really interesting.
Okay, so I want to hear about the actual films that you've developed, these short pieces. And I know you just put something out today with the theme of Mark Zuckerberg. I want to hear about that. And but first, before I do something I forgot to ask is, you are undergraduate or graduate students at Chapman?
Yeah, we're both seniors in the film production program here at Chapman.
Okay.
In undergrad.
And have you submitted this work for grades? Have they been graded?
No, none of it has been through school or for any school projects. It's all just been something we've been doing on the side.
Experimentation. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about the actual work, and then after that, or in context, let me know what you think about the results. Do you think that was it more creative than you expected it to be? Are you proud of what it turned out? So let's hear a little bit about one of your projects, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Yeah, did you want to tell us about solicitors first?
Yeah, so one of the first projects we did, and one of the ones that kind of got more people looking at our channel, was a short film we made called Solicitors. And so I inputted a few lines into the script, basically, that there was a woman at home reading a book, and then there's a knock at the door, and it's a Jehovah's Witness, and he says, "I've got a great story I want to tell you." And then we let it write, and it turned into this very interesting short film script. It wasn't very good, but it was comedic, and it has a twist ending where should I just reveal it, I suppose, or
yeah,
sure,
okay,
yeah,
Go
where
watch the film if you haven't before you listen.
Well, you're probably saying it right now as you talk, so go ahead.
Oh, great.
Okay, gotcha. So at the very end, he's told the story about being in the drug world and about how he was always in shootouts, and then she invites him in, and she pulls out a gun and shoots him and reveals that she was a drug dealer. And so we were very fascinated that it took these that it wrapped the story around in a cohesive way, but also in a way that didn't really work and like wouldn't work in a normal movie. So the absurdity of that really drew us to it, but at the same time, we were very impressed that it retained that information and then used it in an effective ending.
I thought it had a Twilight Zone feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a surprise you weren't expecting, and it was like a strange reality that you were being placed in. A sort of, it's like, is he going crazy, or is she crazy for letting him in the house in the first place? Yes. There was no way I would have let that guy in the house, but I know there was, obviously it was pre-planned. So what was the response to that? How do you feel about it and going forward? Do you think you would show that as a piece of your work? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so first the response, it was quite positive. I mean, it was definitely, for our second video, it did pretty well, sort of for like a YouTube video with no like press upon our part. It got picked up by a few news outlets, and so that helped drive a lot of traffic to it. And then just among our own friends and filmmakers we know, everyone really enjoyed it. So that's been really nice to see that the ideas we have and what we're working on is something that is getting a good response. And then in terms of it being, I guess, like a part of our own portfolio or work, I think it's really interesting because as a film, I wouldn't necessarily show it to people because it's like a great story, I think, that I told, like I might with some of the other films that I've made. But I do think it does really showcase our filmmaking abilities, that we were able to take a script that has these sort of nonsensical elements and isn't, there's no meaning on the page because a real screenwriter didn't write it. So you can't go ask someone, oh, what does this character mean when he says this line? Or what do you imagine their backstory is? We had to do all of that legwork when developing it into a real film. And so I think in that sense, it really is a good example of what we are able to do as filmmakers to make something that looks professional and sounds professional. And, the actors were able to bring a really strong performance to a script that didn't necessarily have a ton of underlying meaning.
I think it's important that you mentioned backstory, because I know I studied acting for many years. I actually studied directing too, long story. And building that backstory it doesn't necessarily exist, right? That's the whole point of building the backstory. And so in some ways, it was good. It gave you a challenge, because it gave you a script that was hard to, it wasn't necessarily logical. You know what I mean? It surprised even you. And I think it probably gave you a lot to work on when you had to build the characters and work with the actors. It probably gave the actors, some more meat, to work with, because it wasn't such an ordered, logical, narrative. And sometimes things that have no mystery aren't really that exciting to play. In fact, one of my favorite painters, because I just told you that I like to paint, Francis Bacon, said that the job of the artist is to create the mystery, is to make things more mysterious. And I think that's true with filmmaking as well. Let the audience fill in those empty gaps, maybe create a script that isn't all explained. So maybe this is an interesting technique. I'm giving you my opinion. You didn't ask for it, but I'm telling you, I think it's actually a really great way to explore storytelling. And then maybe, so when you get your script and you see that it doesn't make sense, it's not logical, it's not something you were considering, do you go back and tweak it? Do you go back and add in stuff? Or did you just leave it as it was?
Yeah, we never like tweak dialogue or anything like that. We never change any lines. I mean, I think the only thing we would do, which we didn't do for this video at all, but if there's a line where it goes off the rails or kind of gets in a recursive loop where it'll keep just repeating the same line, then you can just delete that and have it create something new from that point. But we never inject with any like tweaks, any specific tweaks that we want to like guide it in a different direction. We always just let it run itself.
Yeah, that said, we definitely, I'm sure as you found when you were playing with it, each time you hit generate, you can have the same input text and get two completely different outputs. And so sometimes we'll write an intro to a script or an intro to a song that we feel really strong about and input that. And then the first output maybe isn't quite in the area we want. It doesn't quite make sense enough to be filmed. Like sometimes it'll lose the script format. And so then we're kind of out of luck. So there are some cases where we'll, delete a sort of attempt or two of the AI until we get an attempt that really will work. So there is an interesting part there where it's, you still need a human who can recognize high quality scripts enough to be able to get them made.
Yeah, we definitely are looking, for scripts that are either effective or like provocative or funny. There will be a lot of middle ground. So we don't interject, but we'll still choose.
I saw some other films that you made, Jacob. I think on your Vimeo channel, some horror films. Do you think AI? I don't think those were done with AI, but do you think that this technology is best for Twilight Zone-esque AI? Things that are scary or unexpected, or do you think you could write a romance out of this or an adventure?
I think you could do all of the above. I think it might work for scary because I think right now it kind of gets a little bit into that uncanny valley of like, knowing that this isn't like a human writing this. So I think it works a little more knowing it's a little off, and then you can kind of direct it, like act and do the directing in that direction. And so I think, that's kind of what we've tended toward, but I think it could do all of the above.
Yeah, and we have some, like a couple of the next shorts we're making We're gonna do like a rom-com type that we have the script for that definitely isn't like horror-y.
Well,
as much.
it gets pretty
a
dark.
little dark, I suppose. And I think next we'll do a Western, which would be really fun. So we're gonna try to definitely play around with the genres, but yeah, I think it can do just about anything.
And then you just made this film, which you launched yesterday on Mark Zuckerberg. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's taking an established person with visuals. That's taking, you're using Eminem as the backtrack. You're tweaking Eminem. He's singing your words. How did you do all that? And can they go after you? Obviously not. It's a parody, I guess. But explain to me how. I mean, it's basically a deep fake without all the merging images, isn't it? It's kind of a deep fake. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so we found another YouTuber who does these synthesized vocals. So he has a program that he uses that is able to, take a bunch of inputs of a certain person's voice and then create a fake voice. So you can input any text and it will say it in that person's voice. And so he's been using it to make music as like famous artists. So he has a lot as Eminem. And so we reached out to him and said we wanted to do a fake Eminem song, but where the lyrics were also fake because they're written by an artificial intelligence. Yeah. And so Jacob had the idea to do a diss track. And we thought Mark Zuckerberg would be a good target of a diss track because he, he's a well-known person in the public space who doesn't necessarily have the highest opinion of most people.
I don't know. I could think of a bunch of politicians that would be a good target.
That's true as well. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't love Mark Zuckerberg, so it was a good target. And then Jacob inputted just, what was it, Eminem?
The title was Mark Zuckerberg diss in the style of Eminem. I didn't put in anything else. And from there, I think it just has a knowledge of Eminem because it kind of took his style of jokes and a little bit of like his kind of offensive over the top humor and dumb humor. So yeah, I think the AI is way smarter than we know and has kind of this knowledge of celebrities.
And to be able to connect and write in the way that Eminem does, and then about
Mark
another
Zuckerberg.
Public person, which it got a lot of sort of facts about him, right? That he owns Facebook, that he owns Instagram, that he's he owns these public social media sites, but he's sort of a private person. Doesn't like, there's a line that says, you own Instagram, but you don't like pictures of yourself. So all these really, really sort of referential things,
like specific,
that and that just made us think, and we've sort of been toying with, those are connections that most people could make on their own, but I think this AI obviously has a much broader body of knowledge and can access those things much quicker than a human can. So I do think there are applications where you could give it sort of a problem or an idea, and it's able to make connections about those things that it would take us much more thinking or time to be able to do.
I mean, commercially, I would say this is a tool for speed to market, right? I mean, production costs and things like that and speed to market, those are hardcore variables when producing content or advertisements or, TV shows. And so potentially, I mean, do you think that this is something worth following? I mean, you're experimenting now, but how do you feel about this professionally? Do you think you would pursue creative filmmaking, always using the AI now that you're getting your hands dirty with it? Or do you think it's just sort of fun and a fad and,
Yeah, I think not always we would use it, but it is definitely an interesting thing to play with right now. And we definitely have some ideas within the near future of where we want to take it.
Yeah, I think this is something that we want to experiment with now and branch out with it. I don't think, at least for me, I don't have an interest in doing this my whole life. I'm not like lifelong passionate about combining like technology and filmmaking, but I think it's something right now that's really interesting to explore, kind of on the cusp of it. And so, one of the like longer scale things we want to do is write like a TV pilot and then film it and make it, and then keep feeding it to the AI and having it write subsequent episodes and putting those out. And every week is written by the AI and gets subsequently crazier and more ridiculous. And I think, like you were saying, Eli, like sometimes a character will die and come back to life, and like seeing how far it can keep track of these things, and how deep. So that's something we definitely want to try in the future.
I wonder if there are any. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think for both of us, it right now sort of seems like a great jumping off point and a way for us to keep honing our craft in terms of filmmaking and experimenting. But long term, we're both looking to make narrative films, narrative television that we're writing and doing on our own.
Although I saw on one of your films, Jacob, The Lotto, you had selections at the bottom, in other words, like interactive, although it wasn't an interactive piece. But do you think this technology could be used to create interactive scripts? I mean, because, Charlie Brooker, who did Bandersnatch, famously has said after Bandersnatch, this, because they had to create their own interactive engine. And it was a big project.
Just to write the script.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if you think this could be used to write interactive scripts.
I think so, in the sense of that you, like we were saying earlier, you can put in the beginning and have it be the same beginning, and it will make like unlimited permutations of that, So I think it could write so many versions of the same script that it could be that Bandersnatch type, like choose your own adventure, that you would have to make in the video part of it. But it would be able to provide all the scripts for that.
And I know I wanted to talk also about distribution. Obviously, you're just experimenting with this, but it's getting out there. You guys are wrapping your heads around TikTok or other platforms. Do you think you will see the rise of this, or do you know of other people who are starting to play with this effectively? I mean, I'm assuming you're not the only two out there. I haven't seen too much myself. What is there a rising community?
Yeah, as far as we have been made aware, I mean, there's definitely some other YouTube channels that focus on AI.
Or like deep fakes.
Yeah, a lot of deep fake stuff has started to proliferate because that's a pretty accessible technology. I think we are not completely uniquely, but relatively uniquely positioned with the skill set that we have and the community we're in of being filmmakers who can actually take these scripts or these songs and execute on them in a really high quality level way. But as far as we've seen, there haven't been really anyone else doing exactly the same thing that we're doing. If that will change is sort of to be seen. I could see other people starting to use this as a tool and doing similar stuff to us potentially.
And I think the other thing we're trying to do to keep us fresh is, as you've seen, create such a different sphere of videos that we're not just one thing that somebody could recreate, because anybody could have it write a script and then make that movie. But we're trying to do like this Eminem thing, and then we did the song that it wrote and had an artist sing. So we're trying to be as diverse with our videos as we can, and hopefully like set ourselves apart that way.
Create a portfolio for yourselves, a reel, so you can take that around. What's coming out next?
Yeah, so up next we have another short film that we're really excited about. And then after that, we're not exactly sure the order as we're still in production on these things, but a game show is one thing that we're really excited about. So we had the AI generate hundreds upon hundreds of game show questions and then tell us multiple choice answers, which ones were right and wrong. So we're hoping to shoot that with actual game show contestants. And I think that'll be really fun because, some of the questions have a very clear answer, but the AI said the correct answer was something else. And then we also have some more cooking stuff coming.
Yeah, and another one I want to do is...
Yeah, so we did one cooking one already, and we're going to do more where I asked the AI to write me a recipe. So the first one we did was just for chocolate chip cookies, and it wrote a chocolate chip cookie recipe. And just sort of seeing, could an AI based upon the probably, thousands upon thousands of recipes that are online for this simple baked good, generate an actual working recipe, which it did to maybe 60% effectiveness.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. And then the other one I was saying I was interested in doing was, once there's more accessibility to this is, I wanted to write a stand-up comedy set. And then I want to go to like a open mic and without telling the audience that it's AI, like try to deliver the set with as much commitment as I can, and to see, like, can we make people laugh? Like, has the AI written effective jokes? Yeah.
Good luck on that one. Comedy is the hardest thing to write in the world, as you know. Every word is like a brick. Okay, so last question, which is where are you distributing this stuff? Where can people find your stuff? Do you like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube? What are the best avenues for you?
Yeah, the best place to find us right now is just going to be by going to calamityai.com, which will take you right to our YouTube channel. And then from there, you can find our other social medias. But the YouTube videos are sort of our main thing right now, just because what we're doing is a little bit longer form, a little bit more in depth. But through the YouTube channel, you can find us on other social media.
Instagram, Twitter. Yeah.
Follow us on those.
Not Facebook.
Not Facebook. No, not after this video.
I'm assuming you don't have any family members who are IP attorneys where you've checked into this.
No.
No, we do not. I had some lawyers, but no IP specifically.
Well, I know one if you need one. Anyway, my sister's an IP attorney. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. I'm really happy for the fact that you're trying to do something new. I think you have a lot of chutzpah. You know that word. Thank you so much. Be sure to look on all of their channels, like you said, Calamity AI, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Calamity AI on YouTube. Sorry.
Yeah, and also if you search it on YouTube, it'll pop up Calamity AI. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good luck. Well, I know we'll be seeing your names out there on credits as the film industry evolves. I think they're going to have to wrap themselves around this. So good for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too. Eli Weiss there on the left and Jacob Vaus, they are students at Chapman University under the great Frank Chindamo. Thanks, guys. This is Tracy Swedlow and Televisionation. Be sure to reach out to me if you've got something going that you'd like everyone to hear about. And have a great day. Take care.